Today, we're going to talk about the causes of suicide because oftentimes people think that it's just one thing that leads to a suicide. And this is most definitely not the case. What we see is that there are multiple reasons for a suicide, but oftentimes it's just one triggering event that finally pushes someone over the edge. So, what could be some of these causes of suicide? They might be bullying at school or even in as adult situations. Uh, could be social media. Oftentimes we compare ourselves. We're looking at what other people are doing, where their supposed life is, which we know in reality that's not the case, compared to where we are, and we're always comparing everyone else's best with our worst. And so that's not reality. It's not a true perception. It could do with expectations, both on the side of the person who does take their life, as well as maybe parental expectations, societal expectations, what's going on there. Religion could come into this. Once again, that has to do with expectations. And depression. So there are multiple things that can play into the suicide. I've even heard that the lack of oxygen or oxygen deprivation affects people's mental clarity, and that's why that those of us in the western states were very high altitude. It goes from eastern Idaho all the way down through Utah into Colorado and even into some of the northern parts of Arizona that have higher elevation and high rates of suicide. So multiple causes. Oftentimes the person taking their life feels like they are a burden. They're a burden to their family and that their family would be better off without them. And so there are some things that we can do as parents or just as a loved one of somebody who may be struggling to help decrease the chances that they will take their lives. And one of those is checking in and asking how someone is feeling. And so, as a parent, we often say when our kids go out to an activity or maybe come home from school, oftentimes we'll say, "How was your day?" Now, every kid on the planet is going to answer that almost the same way 100% of the time, and that would be fine, which then does not allow for any further conversation. And so, what I might suggest instead is when you see your child or someone that you're checking in with, instead of saying, "How was your day?" say something like, "Oh, what was something hard or something difficult that happened to you today?" So they can feel that may be the low point of their day. And then counter that with saying, "Well, what was something great that happened to you today?" So that they can feel a high. And by allowing them to have different feelings, lows and highs, it helps them to realize that that's what our emotions are about. That's what life is about, is ups and downs. And hopefully they will then learn to engage and be able to move through when things get difficult. So that's a tip that I have for you. And then another thing that we'll be talking about in our next video is how can we be sure that our kids actually understand that they're valued and they are important to us, and so that they don't then turn to the suicide card. Stay tuned.